We are Rogue Media Sports.
Whoa, what do you know? Happy Monday from the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network here in the Colt Brennan Memorial Studios alongside Zach Burke, keeping us on the air. I'm Cam Stewart. And what feels almost like a victory Monday for the Patriots. It very nearly feels like a victory. Now, they lost by 20 points at home, but it almost feels like a win in context of the 2024 Patriots because Drake Maye went out there, NFL starting debut, if that even makes sense, his first start in the league, and I thought played really well. Like enough that there's actual hope for the Patriots fans. That's what you saw yesterday. You saw shit defense, shit tackling, some bad turnovers from some of your veteran guys. But what you also saw was hope, finally. Probably for the first time in 3 years that you've had legitimate hope at the quarterback position. In Mac Jones' rookie year, when they go to the playoffs, and then it's all downhill. It's the Mac and Zappy. It's unfortunately more Mac and some Zappy. And then this year with Jacoby Brissett, it was like, man, what are we doing? Like just bashing our heads against the wall. But what you saw from Drake Maye yesterday should give you hope. That's the guy you drafted number 3 overall. And by the way, it's worth noting, still was the most raw of those top 3 quarterback prospects. And I mean, if he had anything around him, I thought he would have been like a terrific stat line yesterday if he had any kind of weapons. But still without the weapons, 20 of 33 for 243, 3 touchdowns, a couple of picks. One of them not his fault. One of them absolutely his fault. But he not only surpassed, by the third quarter, Drake Maye had surpassed Jacoby Brissett's game highs in touchdown passes and passing yards. In the third quarter, he had already gotten that. Turns out, of course, he smashed Jacoby Brissett's game high in passing yards and then beat out Jacoby Brissett's total touchdown passes through 5 weeks in one game. Drake Maye looks like a legit NFL starting quarterback in this game. Not a great one yet, or even a really good one yet, but he looks like a legit NFL starter who was ready for the moment. And it all comes right before the halftime whistle. My God, at one moment, the entire 6-state region of New England was fully torqued on that last pass to Kayshon Boutte before halftime. And it finally had a little bit of fortune for the Patriots and also finally showed that they're willing to cut it loose a little bit because that first half, that was still too damn conservative. That first drive, I mean, 2 runs in between the tackles sets you up on 3rd and 9. That was always going to be 3rd and 9. You know what I mean? Anytime you're running Antonio Gibson or Jermichael Hasty on dives on 1st and 2nd down, there was just no way that you weren't going to be in a 3rd and 9 situation. And by the time Drake Maye drops back for his second pass of the game, his team is already down 14-0. That's not an ideal way to start for your rookie's first career start, nor is it the ideal cast around him. But we'll get to that in a minute. But to the touchdown pass, they get the ball with just over a minute left. They're deep in their own territory, and they run it to Jermichael Hasty first play. And it's like, oh, God, dude, here we go again. Like, we did this with Jacoby Brissett. Can we at least trust the kid a little bit? Like, this game doesn't really mean anything, really. Like, let's have him go out there, cut it loose. Let's do a 2-minute drill, a 1-minute drill. Because now the clock's ticking under a minute, and the fans are getting restless, and then they start throwing the ball. And Drake Maye starts making some plays, and he gets them into plus territory. Penalty helps them in there. And then there's one with 16 seconds left. He had just completed a pass to somebody to get them close to field goal range. They have 2 timeouts left. This is a key part of the game that leads to a obviously the great moment that Drake May is about to have, because there with 16 seconds left, they call an illegal hands to the face penalty on the Texans, and it allows the Patriots to not have to use a timeout. They keep their 2 timeouts with the clock stopped. And so because of that, instead of burning a timeout and keeping that one to get your field goal unit out there, they instead have 2 to play with. Let's take a shot. Drake May has Kayshon Boutte one-on-one with Derek Stingley, one-on-one. And it's like 11 times out of 10, Stingley is going to win that battle. Except for this time, somehow, Kayshon Boutte makes a great move to get open, and Drake May puts it right in the bucket. You couldn't have dropped it into his hands any better from 40 yards out. And there it is. A star is born on that play. Maybe 2. Maybe Kayshon Boutte's star is born. But that moment was like, holy shit. We finally have that moment from a quarterback. Because I mean, look, Mac was tremendous his rookie year. Okay. He made the Pro Bowl for what that's worth these days, but he also led the Patriots to the playoffs. He didn't have a moment in his rookie year that was like that. Like, this is legit. This is the first time in a long time that Patriots fans have seen that play from a quarterback and been like, hell yeah. That's what we got. That's what we got in our arsenal now. That's the Ferrari that's been in the garage the first 5 weeks of the season. I lauded the Patriots for their timing on this. A lot of people complained about it. Not that I'm saying this Patriots plan is perfect, nor that this coaching staff is flawless, because we will get into that later in the show. But for me, for this one, it was like, I thought you waited the perfect amount of time. And someone had the good point of it. I think it was Phil Perry, who was saying, like, people are going to question the timeline on when he should have gone in. But some of these plays he made, like, we don't know if he could have made those a couple weeks ago. Like, that's how quick his development was in training camp, and there's no reason to believe why he wasn't developing that quickly in practice these first 5 weeks as well. Again, we all know he was getting more practice reps than most backups in the league ever do. And I think he looked like a kid who was out there and was ready, and he eased into the game. That second drive of the game where they're already down 14-0, he's probably trying to press a little too much, throws the pick. That's the bad pick. Like, that was a completely overthrown ball. Not even really close. But other than that, I don't think he makes a really bad play the rest of the game. The other pick is a deflected ball. I know some people aren't liking his spatial awareness on the strip sack, but he also, like, those are going to happen with this Patriots offensive line. There's going to be some plays where he's hit on the blind side within a second, like he did on that play. And I thought for sure he was injured after that play. And thankfully right now it doesn't look like that he is. But Zach, you're a Texans fan. You watched some of the game yesterday. Do you have were you impressed by what the Patriots now have at quarterback?
Yes, I think, we didn't get into it a whole lot, but I told you in the brief minute or so we got to talk before the show that I thought that it showed glimpses of hope in a way. Like, if I were to sit there and watch
at least
him play,
showed competence.
it did. No, for sure.
At the very least.
When I watched him, like you said, that first interception was just, I still don't know who he was throwing to. Second one, deflection, that happens. I mean, even CJ had one in the end zone, or I think it was in the first half there then too.
Second quarter.
But we've talked about it at length. I think that they still have problems, obviously, on the offensive line that they would need to address just to allow them some more time in some of these aspects. That usually, as a guy, being a fan of a franchise who has seen them single-handedly kill quarterbacks because of how bad the offensive line was, that is something that should hopefully look into sooner rather than later. But for it to be his first start, there were times you talked about the touchdown right there before the half.
Oh my God.
It was a pretty throw. He had a couple of just really nice throws.
That last touchdown that was kind of inconsequential to Pop Douglas was a really great play.
But so as a non-Patriots fan, or even somebody who doesn't have any skin in the game there, I would say that I was still excited with what he gave and what he showed in his first start there. Again, obviously, you still lost by, a
3
lot of
touchdowns. Yeah.
but for what it was, and knowing going in there that you were already going to have these problems, I think that the stat line was a decent stat line. Take away the deflection and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, close to 300 yards, or it was like
248.
248. For some reason, I thought it was
243, sorry.
For some reason, I thought it was in like the 260, 270 range, but still, like that's a damn good stat line.
Hell yeah, man. I will take that in Alex Van Pelt offense. By the way, big historic day for the Houston Texans. First win ever in Foxborough.
Ooh.
I know you've had that champagne for 22 years, just ready to pop when they finally win in Foxborough.
Especially, this is a big moment considering this has been a franchise who has tried to do everything they can to emulate the Patriots for a long time too.
Yes.
This was Fox. I think for a while,
Foxborough
Houston was
South,
nicknamed
man.
Foxborough South. Yeah.
Yeah. Casario, Bill O'Brien, Will Fork. There's still 2 former Patriots there. Miles Bryant made a play at the end of the game, and Shaq Mason.
I do like some Shaq Mason.
A couple of Super Bowl championships with the Patriots. And the most points ever by the Texans in a road game. Yeah. But yet the Patriots fans were walking out of that building thinking, okay. Actually, they weren't feeling great at the end of the game because I think there were some boos in the final seconds because they were taking knees and not running plays. Which I kind of understand with how much your quarterback gets hit. Like, hey, this game's over. But I also was just like, come on, play the game out. Let the kid do it. I don't know. It wasn't going to do anything. But overall, I mean, I maybe it's my naivete. I felt really good about that quarterbacking performance. It started slow. They started him conservatively, and still there's no. I don't know if it's receivers or if it's Alex Van Pelt, but there's still not a lot of plays that are designed to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand quickly, which I don't understand. But you mentioned that offensive line, man. It's, oh my God, it is so patchwork. And this is actually one of their best performances of the year, which didn't stop Anderson from 3.5 sacks or whatever it was. But the problem with it is Vederian Lowe gets hurt in this game, and now for the good portion of this game, you're playing with one offensive lineman who started for you in week 1. One of them, and it's Mike Onwenu out of position. That's it. You didn't have City So week 1. You also didn't have Vederian Lowe. You didn't have him in this game. And instead, you have a rookie making his first career start, and you have got a left tackle who was signed off the Raiders practice squad this week at left tackle, guarding his blind side. I mean, look, this actually statistically might have been the best game that this Patriots offensive line has had. And that's, not a great bar. I mean, Drake Maye still got sacked 4 times, which is not what you're looking for. But he got out of the pocket a little bit, ran for 40 yards on the ground, gave you something in terms of escapability, which Jacoby Brissett cannot give you. And what I was really impressed by more than anything is something that you can't really see in the stat book, because we heard about how whatever you do, you can't have Drake Maye lose his confidence. Once you put him out there, you can't pull him because that'll ruin his career, right? And I thought Drake Maye handled adversity pretty well in this game. That bad pick comes after it's the second drive. It's 14-0. He has the bad pick. And after that, I thought he responded really well. I mean, obviously his team wasn't close the whole game, and he played a good, comfortable game. He had a good drive after the strip sack, if I'm not mistaken, where it looked like he was hurt. He came back and continued to play well through 2 more touchdown passes after that. So even as bad as his defense was, he was responding to adversity well. And to me, this was, you got to give some credit, I guess, to the coaching staff, because the kid was ready. He went out there against one of the best defenses in football, one that gets after the quarterback better than just about anybody, and played really well. Found a one-on-one matchup with one of the best corners in the league in Stingley and won the one-on-one. and unlocked Kayshon Boutte, which no one's been able to do for 2 years. Got Demario Douglas 6 catches for 92 and a touchdown. Love that. Austin Hooper, terrible play. That's the thing. I mean, the Patriots were really sunk by turnovers, weirdly, in this one, because I thought they played well offensively, and 17 points for the Texans in the second half off short fields. The strip sack gets him inside the 30. The Hooper play gets him inside the 35, which was just a stupid play. Kept himself alive just to fumble it. Bad play all the way around. And then the tip ball pick, which what are you going to do much about that? I did think it was funny. Gene Steratore twice said that calls should have prevented touchdowns for the Texans, and he will defend any ref to the death, and he couldn't do it twice on 2 big plays in this one. Maybe changes the outlook a little bit differently, but probably not the outcome. But the Patriots defense is what needs to get somewhat ranted about here, because this was supposed to be a top 10 unit, potentially even a top 5 unit coming into this season, and they just continue to regress. I know they traded Matthew Judon. They don't have Christian Barmore probably for the year, although he put out some cryptic message over the weekend that he might be coming back. Doubt it. But we knew before week 1 kicked off that was going to be the case. And we still thought, hey, this should be a top 10 defense. Now, since then, they've lost Jabril Peppers, maybe for the year. Who knows with that situation? Juwan Bentley, they've lost him for the year after he was excellent the first couple of games. And now, all of a sudden, they don't know how to tackle. Like, really don't know how to tackle. And Christian Gonzalez has been great this year. He had a few hiccups in yesterday's game, but overall, we would all agree Christian Gonzalez has established himself as truly one of the best young corners in all of football. And still, the Patriots cannot defend through the air. And it goes to show just how bad the rest of those guys are around him, that Christian Gonzalez is so good, and the team in coverage is truly that bad. You look at the offensive numbers, and a lot of them match up in a good way with the Patriots and the Texans. But the big one that stands off the board for me is not only how they were moving the ball in the passing game in the first half, but the fact that they actually ran for more yards than they passed. Another game where the Patriots give up 200 yards rushing. Another one. Like, it's a tackling issue. Somehow it is a tackling issue. You know, you lose a couple of really good pass rushers and a guy in coverage, and your rush defense gets that much worse. The Texans were not a team that was really banging its chest about how well they were running the football coming into this one. And you gave them life in that. Joe Mixon, a first good game since week 1. You gave Tank Dell life. He was a real disappointment this season coming into this game. All he does is go for 7 and 57 and a touchdown on 9 targets. Gave him life. Of course, Stephon Diggs killed you. He always kills you. I love when the Patriots don't have to face Stephon Diggs, because he crushes them ever since they became a bad team. But overall, you've got a problem on defense here, almost more than you have a problem on offense, which is obviously something that we would have never said a week ago with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. But this is how it was supposed to look, this Drake Maye debut, I think. I said don't expect 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, less than 2 picks. I kind of got there. He got 3 touchdowns for you, but it was less than 300 yards, 2 picks. I really only want to count 1 to him, but this is hopefully this is progress. This is progress. And like I said on Friday, all you can hope for is progress. It's not going to look great right away. And it looked good yesterday. Not great, but it looked good for the first time all year. And now you go on the road next week, really on the road, like across the pond on the road. So kind of a weird week in order for, in terms of the rookie, but plenty of these guys played in Europe last year. They head out to London to face the Jags, who are also really reeling, but they have the benefit of being in London the whole week. The Patriots don't. I think that's kind of a weird thing that one team gets to do that, the other doesn't. One more thing before I get out of this yesterday's game recap and talk about some Patriots coaching stuff in the next segment. Jalen Polk, where you at, my man? played the second most snaps among receivers yesterday. You're consistently playing the most snaps amongst receivers throughout this season. And yet you have 10 catches on 24 targets. You needed a catch on what was essentially the last play of the game to not get shut out for the whole game. What is this? And you look at the PFF numbers from Jalen Polk, it's weird. Week 1, he was more open than anyone in the league, apparently. And last week, he was less open than anyone in the league. So which is it? Is he a guy that gets open and doesn't get found because Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback? Or is he a guy that can't get open because he's not being found even when Drake Maye is the quarterback and he's throwing every time? It's odd, but you got to be better than that. Look, I'm not saying bust. I mean, we're 6 games into year 1, but he started every game and he's got 10 catches on 24 targets on the year. That's not good enough. He had a bad drop yesterday too. And he's had drops in every game. Where's Jalen Polk? It's bad enough that the other receivers that you drafted can't get onto the field because they're not good enough. Tyquan Thornton, Javon Baker. But the guy you did draft in the second round, this was supposed to be the ideal Batman Robin or whatever you want to call it, quarterback in the first round, big play receiver in the second round, and they can't find each other in week 1 because apparently Polk cannot get open. And when he does, he's got stone hands. 10 catches on 24 targets this year. What is that? That's a second round pick. Well, for the Patriots drafting receivers, that is a second round pick. In fact, that's better than most performances by their second round pick wide receivers. It's a bad laundry list. But around the NFL, the big story was the Detroit Lions. And boy, do they have a good OC. Wouldn't that be nice if the Patriots even freaking interviewed that guy? That's coming up next on the Camp Show. It is the Camp Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. It's a Patriots almost victory Monday. And by almost, I mean they lost by 3 touchdowns, but at least some things look good that haven't looked good all season. That's what I mean by almost victory. And right after the Patriots game yesterday, I had the distinct pleasure of watching the Dallas Cowboys get their absolute heads just beaten in by the best team in the NFC, the Detroit Lions. 47-9, the final in Arlington. What does that have anything to do with the Patriots? Well, the Patriots didn't interview anybody for their head coaching job. They picked a guy who looked impressive in Israel a couple years ago amongst a bunch of adults. And the Lions have an offensive coordinator who interviewed with 4 or 5 other NFL teams, decided to stick around, and once again is leading one of the best offenses in football with Jared Goff at quarterback. Now, I like Jared Goff, but I don't think we're clamoring for him to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. Okay, he's pretty good. He's had a good career renaissance, but I think Ben Johnson has a huge part to play in that. And it's just amazing me. I'm watching this yesterday. I finally get some hope from the Patriots game. And, I'm kind of doing my post-game work. I'm watching the Cowboys and the Lions, and I couldn't help but get angry because all I could think of was, man, they could have at least offered a job to Ben Johnson. It's worth noting, of course, he did not take a head coaching job, which was shocking. But Patriots didn't even offer it to him. Didn't even interview him for it. It's a team that knew they were going to pick a quarterback in the top 3. They knew it. Everyone knew it. And it's a team that has struggled mightily offensively since Brady left in 2019. They've had pretty good defensive teams since then. They have not had any offense, no quarterback, no weapons, nothing. Might I remind you, going into the 2023 season, the talks were, do the Patriots have the worst wide receiver room in all of football? And the only other team you could point to say, oh no, this one might be worse, was the Detroit Lions. That was before last year. The Patriots won 4 games last year. The Lions went to the NFC Championship game and absolutely have a tremendous receiving core because they have an offensive coordinator who knows how to utilize them and has made Jared Goff looking like what was a guy who was picked number 1 overall in the draft again, which the Rams couldn't do at the end. Sean McVay couldn't do it. Ben Johnson could. It's a team that ran 66 plays in the game yesterday against the Cowboys. Up-tempo kind of offense. And they only ran 1 more play than Dallas and gained 240 more yards than them. Goff only throws it 25 times. Doesn't even need to do it much more. 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. They've also got a running back who can run. Patriots haven't had that in a couple years. David Montgomery, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 12 carries for 80. They split it out evenly. Amon-Ra St. Brown was not their leading receiver yesterday. In fact, he was way down the list in terms of yardage. Jamison Williams, 3 for 76, touchdown. Khalif Raymond, 4 for 73. Tim Patrick, whatever the hell Tim Patrick is, 3 for 68. Sam Laporta, the tight end, a 52-yard touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4 for 37 and a touchdown. They spread the love. They've got so many weapons out there when before last season we were saying they have none. They have a bunch. The Patriots still have none. The Lions were second in the NFL last year in passing yardage and I want to say yards per game. Sorry, second in passing yards, third in total offense. And you knew you were drafting a quarterback and you didn't even interview the guy. He was interviewed by Seattle, Atlanta, Carolina, and the Chargers. The only 2 teams with vacancies that didn't were Tennessee and New England. And for what? Because you liked the way the guy hung around in Israel. How does that not make you sick? They didn't even interview anybody. And Ben Johnson's out there interviewing for other jobs. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You wanted to get out from underneath Bill Belichick. Fine. It was going in the wrong direction. They hired a guy who only played and coached under Bill Belichick. He didn't even interview anybody else. We're going to keep this in-house Kraft family. That's how he's done things. No, you didn't. You went out of family somewhat in 2000 to get Bill Belichick, and it worked. You went out of the family for Pete Carroll. He took you to the playoffs, twice? It wasn't tremendous, but I think you had a 500 record. But now this is why you're staring at the barrel at 1-5. And the detractor of the hope is that you still have Gerard Mayo as the head coach and Alex Van Pelt as the offensive coordinator. Like, they were so afraid to look outside the family for some freaking reason. I don't know what year this is or what college team they think they're running here, but you could have had an established NFL head coach with tons of Patriots ties and tons of Belichick ties, but actually has a contact book outside of New England in Mike Vrabel. Or they could have just went out and at least interviewed the hottest name on the market, Ben Johnson, a guy who was turned around perennial losers into a team that is the best team in the NFC thanks to their offense, in Ben Johnson. They decided not to do it because Ben Johnson, his offense and Jared Goff's renaissance is the reason why the Lions won 2 games in a postseason for the first time in almost 60 years. And you couldn't even interview the guy. It just, like, how does that not make you sick? Like, how does that not make you so pissed off at the way this franchise is run right now? Because you look up and down, while Drake Maye is giving you a ton of hope, there's no hope really on the rest of this roster yet. And it's a long rebuild. If you look next to the 2021 season, Mac Jones' rookie year, like, they were in such better shape, team-wise, roster-wise, coaching staff-wise, than they are here in 2024. Much better shape. Because I look at Jaden Daniels' success in Washington, and I'm like, Washington is a better setup than the Patriots right now. And when we were talking about preparing for the draft and those top 3 quarterbacks, the Patriots were the worst situation to go into. In 21, they had hit on the rest of the draft class. They had a good defense. They had hit on the free agents, and they had the best coach of all time coaching them. You have obviously none of those things for this team. None of them. And here Ben Johnson is still being an OC, and you didn't even interview him. Just like pounds the Cowboys into submission yesterday. Like, they crushed almost 500 total yards of offense. And the Patriots wouldn't even get him in for an interview. Like, that's so embarrassingly bad. By the way, Gerard Mayo had an interesting comment this morning and apparently did not make it to tape anywhere. Allegedly, it was on the Greg Hill show, but we're still not here. We still not have seen a clip for it on any form of social media. But apparently, they asked about the roster situation and why it's so bad going into this year for Drake Maye, for a new quarterback that you're looking for. And Gerard Mayo said, I don't know. You got to ask someone else that. Maybe throwing shade at Bill Belichick, potentially, but not like, it's not like Elliott Wolf did anything better to improve this team in the offseason. He went and got Chukwuesekora for. He quit on the team in 2 weeks. It stinks when you look at the situation that Mac Jones had in 2021 and the roster and the coaches that he had. And it stinks that you don't have that for Drake Maye. You don't have anywhere close to that for Drake Maye. And I know McDaniels left after 1 year, but to learn under that guy for a year rather than Alex Van Pelt is a huge difference. And they still have a coaching staff that doesn't quite know their plan, I don't think. And they still don't handle the clock very well. And I don't think are handling the personnel very well because I know they're quite limited. It's like an actor working with bad writing, and they still don't do a great job with it. That's what the Patriots are right now. And it just stinks to see that Ben Johnson is out there. Oh, and the Patriots didn't even have the damn sense to interview him. Congrats, Bobby. You really dodged a bullet there. Because Lord knows what this team would have been like if you had a competent offensive coordinator as the head coach with a rookie quarterback and a rookie receiver you're trying to develop into a number 1. Boy, I'm sure glad you went with the outside linebackers coach instead and promoted from within, because he sure looked mature in Israel 5 years ago. Boy, that's what I want in my head coach. And Mayo might end up being a fine head coach. Who knows? But, like, how does that not piss off everybody? How does that not get talked about more? The fact that they just didn't freaking interview anybody. They didn't even bring in Vrabel for an interview. He's a team Hall of Famer. At least he should be. He got 3 Super Bowl rings for you. And he's a competent head coach in the NFL. And they're like, no, you know what? I think we're good. I think we've seen all we need to see. We haven't heard anybody out, but I think we're good with what we've got in Gerard Mayo. And by the way, Kevin Harlan, his name is Gerard Mayo. How much you study these teams and you meet with the coaches during the week and you can't get his first name right, and someone in the third quarter has to tell you, hey, it's not Jared, it's Gerard. He played in the league for 10 years for this team right here, and you also talked to him throughout the week. You got it? His name is Gerard Mayo. Kevin Harlan's supposed to be one of the best. Instead, he's working with Trent Green on a noon game, Texans Patriots. He can't even get the fucking coach's name right. Like, we're going to talk with Pete in the next segment. Pete is going to try and defend that because he loves every play-by-play guy ever. But Pete would never get the head coach's first name wrong after studying a team for a week and meeting with the coach. He would not have gotten his name wrong. Pete is going to defend him, but I'm going to defend my stance by defending Pete. Pete would not get his name wrong. I guarantee you. He's like, sometimes it slips and someone needs to tell you. I'm stopping it before it happens. That really bugged me, man. I'm like, because I know how much work goes into this. Like, I know he did work. I know he did legwork, but that sucks. Oh. Anyway, maybe that's why he's complaining. I don't know. Anyway, Ben Johnson should be the Patriots head coach. I'm going to stick by that. Even though he didn't take a head coaching job, the fact that they didn't even interview him is insane. It's insane. And by the way, now you're not getting him next year. So some lucky team is going to get him next year. Maybe it's the one he just beat the piss out of, by the way. They're going to be looking for a head coach. Well, they should be, but that owner, who knows? It's not going to be the Patriots that are getting Ben Johnson. There's no way they give up on Jared Mayo. Oh, sorry, I'm hearing word it's Gerard Mayo after a year. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's so lazy. It's so lazy by the Crafts and Patriots ownership. And it's so, in a way, backwards. Like, the whole league is going offensive guys as head coaches. And by the way, it's working. It's working. You got an old school offensive guy, old school, and by that I mean he's been a head coach for a long time. Andy Reid, winning Super Bowls every year. And the team they're beating all the time in the Super Bowl, offensive-minded head coach. Oh, and the one that they didn't win in those 3 and 5 years. Oh, well, you had another offensive coach in Bruce Arians win one of those Super Bowls with Tampa. Oh, and then the other one was another offensive-minded head coach, Sean McVay for the Rams. But let's promote the outside linebackers coach without interviewing anybody. Oh, damn. So just as much as you get some of this hope, as hopeful as I was in that first segment, just watching the Lions-Cowboys game brought me down after that. Because it's like, you had this opportunity to really at least give yourself an identity. Okay. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. With Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, it didn't work. But at least you're saying, hey, we're bringing in the best offensive coach that's out there and available. We're drafting a quarterback. We're drafting a receiver. And we're going to develop this kid and not run into the same problems we did with the last one when we made a defensive coordinator the offensive coordinator in his second year and brought in a retread in Bill O'Brien in his third year. We're not doing that again. We're going to go offense. That's the way the league's going. We're going to get a Ferrari in the draft and Drake May, and we're going to go from there. And instead, you had a quarterback that wasn't ready to play week one. You have a questionable offensive coordinator there. You've got a defensive guy who is so good at deflecting blame everywhere else as your first-year head coach. Because, he was impressive in Israel a few years ago on some trip. That's the way the league's run these days, by one team anyway. Pete Souza is going to defend Kevin Harlan. That's next on The Camp Show. back from Wyoming, Pete Souza. Pete, how was Wyoming? That was the Big Sky.
It was beautiful.
They win? Cowboys win?
Cowboys lost.
Oh, who'd they play?
San Diego State. It was a great game. It was a lot of
Well, when you face a team that has boasted the likes of Marshall Faulk, Kawhi Leonard, and Tony Gwynn as your big three, what's Wyoming's big three?
oh
I can give you one.
Josh Allen.
Yep.
Um,
I couldn't name you a single one.
I want to say Fennis Dembo played for Wyoming. He was a basketball player.
Do they have baseball?
I
I'll bet they don't.
don't know.
I doubt it. I
Fennis
doubt it.
Dembo poll could be awesome.
Zach's looking it up. Zach's really sifted through it here.
But
So
yeah,
you had
it
a
was,
good
it
time?
was fun. Yeah, I'm a little tired. I came back, got into Dallas last night and watched the Cowboys abomination in time for that. Then got outside.
So yesterday afternoon, you got
yeah, and then got
'cause that
outside
game was
for
at 3:30.
for a nice little jog, and then enjoyed like a quiet night. And then I came back to Waco from DFW this morning. Had a little Big 12 meeting. A lot going on in the Big 12, dude.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. My God, was it nice that Baylor didn't play this weekend?
I know.
Oh, what a joy! I actually had a day off on Saturday. Like I didn't have to do any work.
Did you watch college football?
Barely.
Really?
Really not a lot, even though it was a great week in college football.
What was the weather like here?
Hot,
That was hot.
90, 95.
Okay, I know it was 95 yesterday. That was ridiculous.
We watched some shitty movies. I watched a bit of the beginning of Red River. The most part of a game I watched was Mizzou at UMass. I just wanted the spectacle of it. I really did. It was so funny to me.
What was the final score?
I don't even remember. I watched the first quarter, like first quarter and a half. But just the idea that this top 15 SEC team that played at Kyle Field last weekend, 103,000 people, was at McGurk Alumni Stadium in Amherst, Massachusetts. Someone in local news, the young lady who replaced me in Odessa, does really good stuff, right? She had done Permian versus Odessa High the night before. 20,000 people packing out Ratliff Stadium in Odessa. Big deal. And she's a Mizzou grad. So the next day she posted on Twitter, it was like, how is it that Missouri's playing in a stadium that has a lower capacity than the one I covered for a high school game last night? And I was like, girl, Ratliff Stadium has no leaf peeping and no Emily Dickinson house nearby. I don't want to hear it. What we got in Amherst is tradition.
McGurk is an old stadium, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to redo it when they moved up to FBS. They had to play in Gillette a few years because.
Oh, really?
Because which is like you kind of know this. It's like 2 hours away.
Mhm.
Because the stadium wasn't up to snub.
UMass is awesome.
It's a good
I stand by it. UMass is awesome.
Zoomass, baby.
It really is. I mean, there's
It's a fun place.
So I mean, just from a sports perspective, that's all I got. I mean,
wait a minute. Then how is it awesome from a sports?
Oh, okay. So for me, it's personal for me.
Can you do the UMass Big Three? Two of them aren't bad.
Okay, Marcus Camby, Renee Angolia, and then tell me who.
Bro, it is not Marcus Camby, and this is embarrassing coming from you.
Renee
Where
Angolia.
you're from, that you said Marcus Camby is the best.
Hold on. Is it Lou Rowe?
No.
Vicente
No.
Padilla?
No. Vicente Padilla is the baseball player.
Sorry, Hector
Edgar
Padilla.
Padilla.
Edgar Padilla. Hold on. I feel like there's a legend.
I have Wyoming's if we want to go.
Who is it?
All right, yeah, give Wyoming.
So I would argue, dude, baseball was tough.
They do have baseball.
I'll give you Art Howe.
Oh,
All right.
He
Go
played
ahead.
at Wyoming, and then obviously he played in the majors, but a manager
as
for a
a
long
manager,
time.
Good
yeah. I
manager.
mean, we're reaching, so that counts. So we'll let him.
Theo Ratliff.
Oh, all right.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Traded for
So-
Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
I mean, Larry Nance Jr. apparently too, but I'm taking Theo Ratliff
Ooh.
over that.
Larry Nance Jr. is pretty solid. I didn't know he played at Wyoming.
Theo
for
was on
him.
the Sixers when I was there doing PR.
So you know the Sixers.
For a second round. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Gotcha. But you didn't know that Julius Erving went to UMass.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe that. Okay.
The doctor is not in. for Pete
Oh my
Souza.
God. I'm
Come
so
on, man.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Because yes, conventional wisdom would think Camby was the best player that I know from there, but Dr. Che went to UMass. Man.
I was thinking my lifetime. Yeah, but UMass, I mean, and Coach Reed, the guy who I went to Richmond for, he was the head coach at UMass for a while. We went back to play UMass at McGurk Stadium. It was personal that first year.
Did you win?
We won.
Nice.
Coach Reed would always play during our walkthroughs on Fridays. He would play the song "In the Air Tonight."
Nice.
It would be like, "I love this song."
Really gets me fired up.
But somehow he got.
You know, it's about a guy drowning. He was watching another guy drown.
So
He missed it.
yeah, and in his concert, they shined the light on the guy that let him drown, and the guy went home and killed himself.
And
That
he
was
couldn't
like-
believe it. It was like, was it even real? Some say it was a fucking ghost. I don't know.
So we'll get back to that
Phil
story.
Collins guy, he could really do it. He
We'll
could
get
really
back to
sing
that
it,
story
man.
in a
And that
second.
drum solo, holy shit.
So Coach Reed, we were
Yeah.
playing in Coach Reed's first year back to UMass. He left unceremoniously because they wouldn't honor scholarships that he had committed to these guys. And so he left UMass because of that. And our first game back, he somehow got the folks in the stadium facilities to play In the Air Tonight during our walkthrough on the road. So people love that. We were big into that.
Hell yeah.
But I want to go back to the In the Air Tonight now.
Because by the way, I will say UMass 1AA was pretty good.
Oh,
they
yeah.
won a national championship actually in I think '98.
Yes, they did. Coach Whipple.
With
I
Whipple.
think.
Yeah. They brought Whipple back a few years ago. It was
Yeah.
bad.
What didn't go well.
Yeah, it's a no-win situation in FBS. That's just a cut too high for them. It just is.
Yeah.
You know, they're athletically, they're not really any different than UNH, Maine, URI. Like they're
Well, why
not
can't
at
they
that
be?
level. And it looks like UConn is probably not at that level either.
What's the story with that? Why? I guess if you're any good, you're just going to play somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a completely different recruiting base. Obviously, from what we see here in Texas, it's way different. But even like Pennsylvania, dude,
Yeah.
it's different from that. Like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, especially Pittsburgh
Yeah.
area, develops a lot of really great athletes.
Yeah, they do.
And Ohio, a similar kind of state too, develops a ton of athletes. Massachusetts and New England just doesn't.
It's if
And
you look at the
BC
footprint.
always gets its best players from New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And
Well, you look at the footprint. It's just not that big.
yes, and also Amherst, we're not talking Boston.
No.
It can be a tough sell for big time.
But Boston
athletes.
College is even a tough sell.
Proof is in the pudding. Proof is very
I wonder
much
if
in the
that'll
pudding.
I wonder if it'll ever come back around. You know, because in the 80s, I mean, BC basketball was never a juggernaut, but they were an NCAA tournament team.
Yeah, even when I was a kid,
Yeah.
they made a couple Sweet 16s when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
But like they made the tournament 15 years. It's sad, man. Like there's no especially basketball. There's no reason why you can't be competitive. Two players,
haven't been to the
two
tournament.
players, and you're competitive.
They haven't been to the tournament in 15 years.
Yeah, I think 09 was the last time they made the tournament.
Wow.
How do you do that? How does an ACC team do that?
No. Well, that's
That's really that's DePaul. Like that's so bad.
yeah, and DePaul's another one that should be much
DePaul's
better.
But UMass, man, we talked about this off air once. 90s UMass basketball. Fucking
It was
I
unbelievable.
will stand by this. Maybe I will write the book someday. They were very close to like before 99, UMass and UConn were in very similar situations. Hear me out. UConn was in the better conference, right? The Big East was always the better conference. The A10 was not bad back in those days. Obviously, Temple was really good.
Mhm.
Richmond, naturally.
LaSalle.
But like the top teams in the A10 were usually decent postseason teams, right? But other than that, it's the same kind of recruiting base. It's the same kind of academic standards, the same size school. It's the same kind of athletic department prowess. You know, UConn wasn't anything, right? And they both had excellent head coaches, Calhoun and Cal Perry. And for one guy, that job was enough. He made them into a dynasty. The other was on the brink of doing that and got a better call, right? I'm not blaming Cal Perry for leaving, but it's like, I think UMass was really one hire away from being a consistent college basketball power. They made the wrong hire. It was a tough one, but
Who was
They
their
were
first
wrong
hire after?
I don't know. I think they promoted somebody,
And then I remember.
which is what programs do.
I remember
sometimes.
Derek Kellogg was there, and it was like, oh, maybe this is interesting. And he had him going for like a cup of coffee, but it never It just never.
Do you know who
took.
their head coach is now?
No, I don't.
Frank Martin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they still haven't made the tournament. He's like year 3 or 4.
Okay.
Guy took South Carolina to the Final Four. Like,
Frank Martin, great coach, or at least he was.
It's
you
so
know?
like
I think a guy like Frank Martin, his voice rings a little hollow now. In today's like just constant turnover, it's hard to build, and he's pretty hardcore.
he is hardcore.
He's about
man.
building
I
family.
mean, I
and,
saw him in the Big 12 for years.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, before
Yeah.
I got to school here, obviously, and then did knock out Baylor in that 17 Final Four run. But yeah, it just stinks that UMass can't be like. I'm not expecting them to be a tremendous athletic department, but they should be better than they are right
Yeah.
now. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Well, I will know the Phil Collins song,
Oh yeah, I don't like Phil Collins.
but the "In the Air Tonight" song was that basically someone watched someone drown, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's the
And
story.
so Phil Collins invited that person who allowed someone to drown to his
Yeah, can you
concert.
find the best UMass baseball player? I wanted to finish that Big 3, but I do want to hear this story. I want to give you the
And so the person was in at the show, and Phil Collins sang the song, and they shined a spotlight on the guy who
Yeah.
Phil Collins was calling out, and the guy went home and took his own life. Now that's obviously a wives' tale, but that was the
it
story.
definitely didn't happen. No chance that happened.
Zero chance. So by the way, Gerard Mayo.
Jared, yeah.
So in the
Go ahead, defend him. Defend him.
so
go
in the
ahead.
third quarter, it changed.
Yes. Someone said Gerard at some point in the second half.
And so did he say Gerard?
I don't know if it was him or Trent Green first. They were both saying Jared in the first half.
All right. It's just he's one of the best. Like he doesn't get grace.
I mean, he's doing a noon game.
So, Cam, this is where
the
it
Patriots
gets
and
frustrating for me. Like,
But I get, but if you're the best of the best, that's the standard we hold you to.
yes, okay, yeah,
You know, when Brady throws a shitty pick in the end zone, we don't say, oh, he gets. I mean, you obviously have some grace overall. You're not going to
Yeah.
say he's garbage. I'm not saying he's garbage, but how do you not get that right for a whole half? I mean, and I think I laid it out to the point where I know you're doing a ton of research, and I know you're meeting with the coach.
yeah. It's not a mistake you want to make.
It's
That's
not a
that's all I'll
mistake you wanna
say.
make.
But Kevin Hart, I mean, people make mistakes. Like
I know, Pete.
but
I know.
yesterday Brady
This
played
is our
it.
job.
Did you watch the Cowboys game at all?
I watched it on mute, so I
So-
actually, and then I realized Brady was on it. And I was like, "Oh shit, I should have been listening."
So Brady,
Listening to my new records.
so that's cool. So
Thank you.
Brady, he had like it wasn't. He's I like him. He has takes, and he's Tom Brady, and that brings something to it. But he couldn't say somebody's name, and he was like
Which,
he's
by the way, I have more leeway for the color guy.
yeah.
Former meathead player like Trent Green, if he says Jared Mayo and the other guy says Gerard, it's kind of whatever. But
Yeah,
yes, go ahead.
I agree with you to hold the play-by-play
I mean,
guy. To hire.
like, yeah,
But Tom Brady
so it
didn't
is.
know how to say the name, and he kind of just gave it to what's his face. See, now I forget his name.
Burkhart, yeah.
Kevin Burkhardt, and Burkhardt like said it right, and Tom was like, I wasn't even going to try to say that one, and it was good. It was they made a joke out of it, and then some people on Twitter were like, Tom Brady, it's your job. And like, it was probably you.
Probably, yeah.
No,
How many millions? did he
Zach,
pay?
go ahead. I think he's got an update for you.
Yeah, as much as I wanted it to be
There's no way there's a famous UMass.
Gary
baseball
DiSarcina,
Oh yeah.
player.
it's Jeff Reardon,
Oh
Mm.
yeah, he's from Western.
He was
Mass,
one of the
actually.
original
Went going to
firemen,
high
dude.
school.
4-time All-Star, World Series champ with the Twins, also the saves leader in
Yeah.
'85, and the relief man, the Rolaids Relief Man Award winner that year too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
From Dalton, Mass.
Oh, he's from Mass, huh?
Yeah.
It
Yeah, he
says-
went to Wacona
says
High School. Which is way
Pittsfield
out
here,
west. He was
but-
probably born in Pittsfield, but I bet he was raised in Dalton. Okay, that's not bad. Victor Cruz,
Victor Cruz.
Julius Irving, and Jeff Reardon.
Undrafted Victor Cruz. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
Renee Angolia was a great football player. He's not.
Probably not.
Do you know who he is?
No.
Okay. He was a cop in Massachusetts. Now he does football
Oh,
for ESPN.
shit. Now I'm gonna get pulled over.
Yeah. No, he's done. He's retired.
Oh.
But he's no nonsense. No nonsense.
How did you know him?
He played when I was at Richmond. He
Oh.
was their star.
So did he live in like Western Mass after that?
I don't know, but he was a police officer, and somehow
Most of my family went to UMass.
I think he did both at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, because it was weekends. He still calls games for ESPN, college football,
Okay.
mostly in like the Northeast area, and then he'll do.
That's kind of what I was wondering, like what his assignments would be.
Yeah. He's mostly that area of the country. Yeah.
Like Syracuse is the next closest. Well, BC obviously,
Yeah.
but Syracuse is kind of the next closest big team, and that's still 5 hours.
And
4
Syracuse
hours.
struggles too, man. It's kind of like
3 hours.
they're getting better. But when I was growing up, they had the guy Dick McPherson, who was a Patriots coach eventually.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, unfortunately, yeah.
How bad was he as a coach?
Oh,
but he was
terrible.
great at Syracuse.
When they talk about how bad this Patriots team is, like that's what they think back to. Dick McPherson and Rod Rust. Rod Rust was the one year they were 1-15.
Hugh Millen was their
yeah.
quarterback for a minute.
Yeah, and I think they got the Bledsoe pick out of that. I might be wrong. Bill's probably going to text me in a minute to tell me I'm wrong.
There's nothing better than when New England has like an awful team because
you root for any team. You're like,
you guys get hysterical. Great. I mean, by the way, there's what went on.
I think I've been level-headed.
I'm going to talk about this on my show. This is like a little sneak preview as we're coming up on the time here. What Nick Sirianni did yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know
what
if they're
weirdo, dude.
Here's what I'll say.
Everyone loved it 2 years ago when he was giving it to Cowboys fans or whatever.
But
even now when you're not winning.
But even then, honestly, and this is in rooms that don't matter among people talking who don't matter. But even my buddies and I were saying like he might be a bit of a douche. You know, like it was like this guy is kind of a douche. Now, like with what he did yesterday, and I'm going to elaborate on the Pete Souza show here at 1:00 Central Time on the Rogue Media Network. I was told once what the definition of the perfect asshole was. And the perfect asshole is someone who just completely like, you don't even have to argue with them, especially in a group of people, because they implode, you know, and that's what we've seen with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni.
It doesn't even get to argument stage.
No. And Nick Sirianni's doing that where it's like, if you're sitting back and watching this play out before your eyes, you're kind of like, oh, I get it. Like, imagine this goes on in the facility every day and you're Jalen Hurts and your other guys. You're like, this guy sucks.
Give it a rest, dude.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Play some football.
And there's a whole nother take I have that I'm working on. I hate to say take, but it's an opinion based on research.
Yeah.
You know, you got to lead people. You've got to be normal. They've got to respect you. That like, you can't be like you just can't be that
and
way.
There is that, like, in any coaching circle, like we'll go down from friggin' high school to the NFL. Like, you can't be a thin-skinned guy.
No.
Like, you can't let these things like chirps get to you, which like clearly he is, like, because he fights back. Like, you can have your personality. I'm not saying that, but you can't let that shit bother you.
Yeah.
And I obviously got raised with the exact opposite of don't acknowledge anything outside of the locker room with Belichick. You know what I mean? But like, you can't. You can have personality, but you can't just be like responding to fans. Like, that's a weird. It's not the league for you. It's not the job for you, and it sure as shit ain't the city for you.
This guy he's showing his true colors, and I think ultimately, like, if you're Jalen Hurts, you don't even have to open your mouth. You're just like, I think we're all a little late to the party, maybe, but maybe not so much. But it's like, okay, this guy's. And then yesterday, talking to the media with his son on his lap, it's like
such a cop out, dude. So that's an a-hole move.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring my kid up here for probably the first time so I don't get these questions because my kid is here.
Yeah.
He's a friggin' shield. That sucks. That pissed me off.
Wow. Hold on. You just compared.
What?
You just compared him to Tom Sizemore in Heat. Picking up a child to use as a shield.
Yes, kind of. Kind of.
That is like the most immoral thing. Bank robber, degenerate, last scene of the movie, picks up a stray kid and carries him with him so the police won't shoot. You got to be a really good shot, dude.
Oh, yeah. It's like in baseball with aggressive base running. Make them make the perfect throw, the perfect relay. You got to have the perfect shot to beat me now.
Because she's got a great ass.
It's Pete Souza. You're going to hear more about that on the Pete Souza Show at 1 o'clock.
That's
You
probably
can
my
catch
favorite
me
movie.
here every day, 11 a.m. Central, high noon on the East Coast, and then wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow Pete's show as well. You'll catch me on the end of that, and we will see you tomorrow on the Cam Show.